And once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mistpedia Weekly Conquest Cup number 17. My name is Blue. We're jumping into you and to the second semifinal here of the day, which is between teams. Apologies, I have to remember this team name because it's a little bit complicated. It's actually, when you hear it, it's not going to sound complicated, but it's Team in Memory of Zoose, which is actually, I think, a majority of Team Excelsior from last week, taking on Team Pug Life. Now, we are joining it in the midst of the set here. We actually just saw the end of the first game go 501 to 178 in the favor of Team in Memory of Zoose. We're going to be heading onto our second map here in just a second, which I believe to be on Forest. So we're going to switch a little bit preemptively over to our build window here, and as soon as our teams start to join up, we'll take a quick look at the builds before we get started with the second game. So heading over to the build pane once again here, checking out first, we'll be looking at team, and we actually have them on the wrong side. Hold on. Give me 1 second here, folks. They're on the wrong teams, so we have to have them flip really quickly. And as soon as they do, then we'll go over the builds. But they're doing that right now, I believe. There we go. So first off, we actually do have Subkitty playing for this red team here, which I believe he was playing for the other team, outplayed up until a moment ago. So unless I read that incorrectly, he has switched teams over to our red side here, which is Team in Memory of Zoose once again. So looking at him specifically, we are going to be seeing a fairly standard Shatter Mesmer once again, 44006 being utilized by him with Zerker's Amulet, Runes of the Traveler, and Great Sword Staff. Of course, once again, for anybody who was not here to explain this build earlier, this build has a whole crap load of burst, very similar to a DP Thief, but unfortunately very similar to a DP Thief as well. It's very reliant on positioning to keep himself alive. If he's in the middle of the fight, he's going to die very quickly, but if he has a perch up top for where he can properly shatter his opponents, then he's going to do a whole crap load of damage if left unchecked. Moving on from that, we do have Skovex, which is a name that we have not seen in a long time, at least not in a tournament setting. Skovex over here running with Staff Elementalist at the moment, but this will probably get swapped out to DD, and indeed it shall. No Blasting Staff trait to be found here, so it's going to be DD Cellularly. Same exact thing that Phantom is running in the last game there. Very supportive, but also does a fairly decent amount of DPS. Very good for side node engagements, but when it comes to a team fight as well, he can keep his teammates up and rolling for a very decent amount of time too. Cade is actually going to be playing Dagger Pistol Thief, so once again, pretty much the same exact thing the Toker is running in the last game. It's actually, again, the description for this build, pretty much the same exact thing that I would say for Subkitty. Very reliant on positioning. When he does have proper positioning and proper engagement timings, he will do a crap load of damage to his opponents and possibly gank them in one blow. But if he screws up on that, and if he finds himself in the middle of the fight, he's going to find himself in the downstate very, very fast. Nos is going to be running on his Necromancer 06404. Condi Focus obviously coming into play. A little bit more defensive with this build, but the POC builds, we have seen this build kind of come up in popularity compared to Doomfire builds, which we were seeing a lot more in the previous patch. This build is a lot more defensive in my opinion, as I just said. And also does offer a little bit less overall damage from my findings and kind of playing around with the two builds, but obviously again that added defense is going to be very good, and for people like Thieves and whatnot that try to jump on, specifically like people like Wubs over here, would be very annoying for Nos to deal with, so it helps out with that by a very large margin because you have things like Reaper's Protection over here, it's that guaranteed fear, as well as the Night Maroons, which does virtually the same exact thing. So, but other than that though, it's a fairly standard Condi spec, really dangerous in team fights, and if you leave it unchecked, especially with your squishier members in the team fights, it's really going to start to hurt as the team fight goes onward. And then you have K-Pud over here running with Hambo at the moment, Manbo with the Zerker's Amulet, obviously. I mean, it's going to have very, very high damage against this team, but it's going to be a little bit squishier. Overall, it's still a fairly tanky build in my opinion, but obviously the shock value is going to be a lot higher with that Zerker's Amulet. If they're just eating up those hammer combos in team fights, it's going to absolutely destroy members of the blue team, so they do have to keep their eyes on that one, especially because of this Zerker's Amulet. And we're actually going to give the signal to go here in just a second. And as well, that song would like me to promote Gasm at the moment here. It's a guild for PvPers. So if you're interested in joining Gasm, you can go ahead and contact one of the members of this blue team. So that'll be Dat Song, I believe, is the person you want to talk to. So yeah, if you're looking for a PvP guild, go ahead and look for Gasm. But I think we are good to go. Just waiting for blue team to ready up here at the moment, and as soon as they're good, we will get started. Checking out though, blue team, kind of as we're waiting, just taking a very quick glance. Not entirely sure. I think Demonoid's trolling me a little bit here with these spirit weapons and all this stuff, but if it is a normal build based off of what I can see at the moment, it's probably going to be a Bunker Guardian. So once again, Bunker Guardian, everybody knows what they do. Keeps their teammates alive, keeps the fight rolling, very tanky, keeps himself alive, and makes sure the point stays decap while tanking on all that damage and supporting his teammates. This is the same build that Ken was running in the last game. Does put a little bit more of an emphasis on team support than it does on self-survivability, but overall still does the same basic purpose. Ready-Made is going to be playing a staff version, pretty much a staff version of the same build that Skovex is playing over here. Staff means a little bit more of an emphasis on AoE. A little more AoE support also comes out from that, but other than that, the overall statistics of the build is going to be the exact same thing. Unfortunately, though, we don't really have any more time to go over builds here, so we are going to have to get started, but Wubwubs, once again, just as a very quick glance, also playing Dagger Pistol Thief. Bootnide is playing Control NG, same exact thing as Backpack from the last game, and Datsong is playing a much more tankier version. Apologies, he's playing Eviscerate Warrior, so same thing as H-Man from the previous games. Anyway, though, we are jumping into it. As a reminder, once again, in memory of Zoose, already won the first game, so they are up 1-0, and we have got these splits going all over the place, guys. Take a look at this. Red team sent 2 back over here to their opponent's home node. Blue team has 2 people defending this. Back over in mid, you got 2 guys from the blue team taking on Skovex in a 2v1, and as well, there was a bit of a DPS race to try and take down the red boss, but it looks like we actually ended up seeing the red team get full control of that. Cade, once again, there with the fiery greatsword, actually managed to kill that boss first, so he got the 25 points as well as the 50-point stat boost for his team. Other than that, though, it looks like both of these teams are on their way towards middle here right now, and we're probably going to have ourselves a big mid fight in just a few seconds. But for the time being here, the team in memory of Zoose is up with 1 cap. And as well, they do have pressure on both of the other nodes, preventing blue team from getting those caps at the moment. A lot of pressure coming in from the blue team. A lot of support is actually here from the blue team on this node. You've got Ready-Made on the Staff Ellie, as well as you've got Datsong back over here on the Visitor Warrior too. So if they can manage to lock down K-Pud, they can definitely come back from this. But actually, K-Pud is doing quite well in the 1v2 at the moment. Ready-Made does need to get some CC out into the field here to save Datsong, but that may not be happening here, as well as Nos comes in and adds some extra chaos here with Fears. Actually is enough to take Datsong into the downstate, and Ready-Made is now under pressure to try and get his teammate back up. But considering again that it's a Zerker's Hambo as well as this Connie Necker, I don't see that happening here. And it looks like Ready-Made is also going to fall to that, even though he would have Mistform up there. And now with both these guys down, it looks like red team is going to open things up here with a 3 cap, which means that once again here, Gasm or Pug Life, as their current team name is in this tournament, has a lot to come back from here. But obviously they are up against a very, very strong team. Lots of very well-known North American players on this red side here. You've got Supcutie, you've got Cade, you've got Nos, you've got K-Pud. All of these guys are well-known. And of course, you have Skovex, who, because we haven't seen him play in such a long time, I don't necessarily think we could call him a top NA player just as of yet, but he is kind of one of the old boys, so Well, I guess we can kind of rein him in just through seniority. But anyway, taking a look here at the moment, obviously red team has a very strong grasp of this map here, and unfortunately, actually it looks like though that they're not really going to chokehold their opponents here. They are going to let them take their home cap back here. They're just going to try to kind of control them in this area. This is an old strategy that TP mainly used to do. Team Paradigm, for anybody who again kind of remembers who that is. I hope most people do, but Team Paradigm used to do this a lot, where they would kind of just let their opponents get the home cap and give them a little bit of hope, allow them to get that momentum, but kind of catch them off guard on the roads here. Just go for some fighting on the roads there, and then start to reapply that pressure back onto the home node once they've actually managed to take them down. And that strategy worked brilliantly against team upon team upon team for them. And as you can see, it's working very, very well against this squad as well. The extra pressure does obviously put a bit of a risk on them when they do push into that home node, but the kind of back and like in and out pressure does give them that breathing room they need to regenerate. So if things get too hot, they'll fall back, let their opponents push into them, and then they kind of just snipe them out on the roads and then start to push in again while the blue team is in a weaker position, and then they just repeat that process over and over again. It's a very good strategy, and if your opponents don't catch on to what you're doing, the cycle becomes extremely hard to break. But it seems as though that one of the members of the blue team has actually managed to sneak through the wall that they had going here. Bootnide managed to come over here to mid and actually scored a decap just a few seconds ago, but he does not want to fight anyone from the red team here. He saw Supcutie and just immediately left the node here, so he is going to be running away. Skovex has FGS, so he will have adequate enough speed to chase him back over to this node as he would attempt to go over towards that mine to score decap. But unfortunately, once again here, because of that FGS, Bootnide will not be able to get to that node in time for a decap, and Skovex will be able to obviously get on the node. But there was a bit of a trap laid there, as you can see. Datsong actually came in from the beach, and he scored the decap too. So coming up from behind there, still managed to score that decap, but at the same time, they still have to take out Skovex, and now Supcutie's in play here too. Bootnide throws down that crate, does have a very nice lockdown going on to Skovex here at the moment, but we're not, overall here, we're not seeing seeing a lot of damage going on to him, so it's really not going to matter too much because once again here, the second he swaps into Water Attunement, he's just going to continue healing through that. Once more lockdown coming in from the Control NG, but if they don't deal that DPS here very soon, then Mistpedia is going to really start to hurt here, as again, you can see he's gotten plenty of shatters off on a Boot Knight, and to be honest, when you take a look at the cooldowns here, I don't think Boot Knight can last much longer without getting some more assistance from either another teammate or by taking out one of the enemies here. Boot Knight, as you saw there too, Kate also jumped into this fight, which means he's now in some trouble. Kate tries to try to go in there, a little bit of a mistimed on the engagement, and also very nice jump out there from Boot Knight too. That was actually pretty clutch, getting himself just out of play there with that acid bomb, but unfortunately, while he was dancing around all of this, he was not able to support his team, and his teammates here, Datsong, ended up going into the downstate as the residual members of Team in Memory of Zoose there still ended up taking him down. So while blue team does have a 2-cap for now, that is going to fade very, very fast here. They will be getting back control of the mine in just a couple seconds as soon as they knock out the residual members, and then back over in middle, we have Skovex already on his way, and with no blue team members remaining on that node, that will fall back into red team hands very, very quickly as well. Back over here, a 2v1 is happening here between both K-Pud, Nos, as well as Ready-Made. Ready-Made having just gone into the downstate also means that we're probably going to have a 3-cap scenario coming out here in favor of Team in Memory of Zoose, which means once again, they will be locking down their opponents here. Their opponents as well seem to want to come over here towards their home node. Obviously, again, the score's heavily favoring in Memory of Zoose, meaning that it's going to be a very hard comeback here at the moment for Pug Life, if not impossible at this point when you just consider the over 300-point lead. We have very rarely seen 300-plus point comebacks, and past the 350-point mark, it becomes even harder to make that a possibility here. So while there is still a slight chance for Pug Life to come back into this game, it is going to take a very large amount of effort to do so. And considering, once again, the roster here from the blue team, or apologies, the roster here from the red side, just again, a lot of veteran players, a lot of guys, some of the NA All-Stars even being on this team, 2 of them, if I remember correctly, 2 of the NA All-Stars being on this team. It is going to be very hard for them to come back, and I would say it's very unrealistic to say they would be able to make this comeback happen. So it's looking good here for In Memory of Zoose to move on to the grand finals here, meaning that they, as long with Outplay, both are going to be fighting each other here in the next game. Overall, should be a very interesting final, as once again, this is, if I could be wrong, but this is one of the very few times we've actually seen Mistpedia make an appearance in a Mistpedia Weekly. Usually he only shows up for kind of bigger tournaments, but I believe, once again, with the WTS coming up over the next few weeks here, as well as TOG, obviously, a lot of these guys are just trying to get back in here, get some regular competition, get some tournament-style competition, as tournament style does tend to differ a little bit from scrims and just, apologies, from scrims and just general team queuing. It's a very much so a different experience. It's a very different environment for players to play in, so it's good to just come in here, get yourself prepped for that kind of environment so you can hopefully train your team and yourself a little bit better for those sorts of things. But as we see here by the score, 475, it's fairly safe to call it, as I just said a few moments ago there, for In Memory of Zoose. They probably got this in the bag, and if they can take out Chieftain right here, they definitely have this map. But also very well fought there by Pug Life. Again, definitely a newer team, but we hope to see them returning again in the future. But for now, they are going to be knocked out, and In Memory of Zoose is going to be moving on to the grand finals to take on Outplayed by Children. That game, guys, is coming up in about 5 minutes here. We do have to move all of our guys over to the main arena, but as soon as we have done so, and as soon as we have finished map selections, we're going to take, actually, it's going to be a little bit longer, 5 minutes. We're going to do like 7 minutes, just so we have enough time to do the map picks. But after that 7-minute break, we will be coming back to you with the grand finals of this week's Mistpedia Weekly Cup, which once again will be between Outplayed by Children and In Memory of Zeus. That game is coming up in 7 minutes, guys, so stick around.